Well, there's a couple of people here. We've got 3 thumbs up, and it looks like 2 people are in the room. So hello to whoever it is. And we're actually a few seconds early here, but that's all right. And Will It Grow is here. Well, I think everybody else is watching the president, so I don't know. We're gonna do a live here. So today, I decided I wanted to talk about my garden plans a little bit more, and I am going to give you the winning strategy for Shedwars. Now, hello, Voon. Now, I don't claim to have any particular special secret here, but the winning strategy to Shedwars is not to grow the most food. Hello, Gail. Welcome to the live. The trick to winning Shedwars is not to be the guy growing the most food. Country Homestead Preacher, welcome. And I will, by the end of this live, I will tell you what the winning strategy is and how to win Shedwars. Now, of course, the most important thing, Homestead Aquarius, welcome. Yeah, I'd rather watch me than Sleepy Joe too. Jason Avers, good to have you here. Yeah, some random guy in DC. Well, I don't know. Is he broadcasting from his basement, or did he? Never mind. I didn't want to go there. So before I get into how you win at Shedwars, now the first thing is be on my team. So I don't know, Will It Grow's here, Homestead Aquarius is here. I don't know if Arkansas Woodcutter is in the house, or if he's listening, or if he's going to listen to this later. Homestead Preacher, Pastor, welcome. I will say this. Whoever gets me on their team, that's the winning team. And I'm not being arrogant, I'm being factual. Anyway, we'll see how that works out. We're 24 hours away from finding out how the teams are going to start to form up, and about, I would say, maybe, I don't know, 50, 52 hours from finding out all of the teams for Shedwars. So that's exciting. Before I get into my garden plans, I'm going to talk a little bit about my germination chamber. A lot of you have seen, Voon just watched my germination chamber video, so this will be fresh in your mind. There are some things in that video, some things that I said I thought I was going to do. Well, I did a lot of those things. I put a fan in, I opened up some more room for air to flow, and but I have further modified the chamber, and I need to do it again. There's more modifications, and I'll tell you about those in a second. But I took a tray of gypsy peppers. The gypsy peppers are like a sweet, they're not really a banana pepper. It's like a sweet poblano pepper. Maybe not quite as big as the poblano, maybe a little longer and not quite as big, but we grow gypsy peppers. There's a restaurant in town. She'll buy them from us, so I can probably sell all that I can grow. Good evening, Jules Small Gardening. Appreciate you coming to the live. Jules is doing a lot of work around his yard. I really appreciated his last video. It made me think about some of the early, and I don't mean anything by this. I really mean that I enjoyed the video. Will It Grow saying that he used the control device on your cheesecake. Oh, you're making cheese. I'll have to see how that goes. I haven't seen any videos on that. You'll have to, I'll have to go check them out if you got any. But when I was watching Jules' Small Garden, and he was talking about his garden, and he was setting it up I was thinking, man, I can't even get out in my garden. I got snow on my garden. But I looked today, the snow's pretty much gone. We've had a lot of wind. The wind should help to dry things out, although we're also going to get a bunch of rain as we go forward. But I'm hoping that we'll be putting a plow in the ground probably, maybe not by the end of this month, but certainly by the middle of April. We should be tilling soil and getting ready to go. And from the way that the garden looks, I may not even plow. I might just go through with the cultivator. If I had a disc, I'd use that, and we'll get that going. But Jules made me very nostalgic to my first house. I had some smaller gardens that we had back there, and we grew them. And you'd go out and you'd spend a whole day in the garden, and then, you didn't really have to do anything for a week or so. And when we start gardening, the day we start, it's every day, more or less, it's every day until October. So I do enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to it. And my garden plans this year, I would say we're maybe 2 days away from, and 2 working days away from getting the hoop house ready to cover with plastic. And we reduced the size of it. Originally it was 22 feet wide and 80 feet long, or 100 feet long. And I've reduced it to 20 feet wide and 60 feet long. I reduced it mainly because when it got hit by the very strong wind that wasn't a tornado, I am told, a lot of the ribs got bent. The whole thing got pulled 30 feet up in the air on one corner, and I was in there in the middle of the wind cutting the plastic to try to get the thing to settle down so that it wouldn't destroy itself even more. And that happened about 4 days after we put the plastic on the greenhouse. So we're finally getting back to getting that going. Eric Premchen, welcome to the live. And I thank you for your support. All of you, I thank you for your support. Hey, if you could do me a huge favor, this would help me out a lot. If all of you would make sure you hit that thumbs up. Well, for me, it's up here. I think for you, it's down here. Hit the thumbs up button, and that way maybe the algorithm will pick this thing up and invite a bunch more people in. So, Jules, I'm glad you're here. I would like your insight on when I should plant my okra. I was tempted to start planting okra seeds in flats, but I think probably I should wait a bit. So I want your advice on that when you get a chance. And so that's one of the things that I'm planning to do, is plant okra. Another thing that we've got our onions almost ready to go. I am going to set out on a journey on Monday. My brother-in-law and I are going to get into the truck and drive down to La Crosse, Indiana. It's about a 2.5-hour drive, I think, for us, and we do it every year. We're going to go down to La Crosse, Indiana to pick up potato seed or seed potato and onion sets. We'll also be picking up some shallots, and I haven't heard back yet, but if he has them, I'm going to pick up a few hundred strawberries, and we're going to get those planted and see how that goes for us. But in the greenhouse, getting back to that, I have built, and I'm making a video about it, I have built a raised bed. It's about 15 inches up off the ground, and I did it in a hugelkultur style. So Steve Tunstra, welcome to the live. So what I did, I got some steel siding and I cut it in half, and I built these raised beds. They're 10 feet long and 5 feet wide, 15 inches tall. And I laid down some dry twigs and branches, and then put the smaller twigs down first, and then I put some larger stuff on top. And then I brought some dirt in. The problem is it's way too wet. And I took the skid steer out to my dirt pile, and actually I went down about 13, 14 inches in the mud. And hello, Simply Jan. And let me give Jan a. So there, John. Is that better? So the skid steer went down into the ground, and it started to just spin its tires. And when I picked up the dirt, it was so wet. I know that by dumping that into those raised beds, all right, Jules, I'll do that. 4th week of April. Yep. So, but the ground was so muddy when I poured it into the raised bed. My fear is that it's so wet that it's just going to cake down in mud. So I'm going to let that dry out and bring more in later. So in those raised beds, I'm going to plant tomatoes. I'm going to plant probably 15 tomatoes per bed. I'll keep them. Lori's World, welcome. I'll keep them pruned back so that I've got just one vine going up. And so I should be able to plant them about a foot apart. I usually plant them about 18 inches apart, but I think I can snug them in together a little bit. And I'm going to hang them from the top of the hoop house. I'm going to have some tomahawk lines coming down so that I can trellis them up those tomahawk lines, and then if they get to the top, then I'll hang them, let them loose so that they can lean a little bit, and just keep growing them until I've got no space for them. And then, lower and lean method. Thank you. I couldn't remember what that was called. And then along the sides, the lower edges of the greenhouse, I've got some 5 foot tall. No, Jules, I've actually got my brother-in-law sent me some Clemson spineless, like a bag of them. I don't know if he expected me to grow microgreens with them or what, but I should have plenty, but I appreciate it, Jules. So along those edges, I've got some of that Hortonova trellis. I've got some 5 foot tall Hortonova trellis, and I'm going to hang that from the purlane in the hoop house, and then plant pickling cucumbers down that side. This year I've gone back to the national pickling cucumbers. Last year I grew something called a Wisconsin 95, and they were huge. They were okay for garlic spears, I suppose, but I like a little bit of a smaller pickle. I like something that's got a good crunch to it and isn't all center. So that's what we're doing there. We're going to pick up potatoes on Monday. I've got probably I've got 3 different varieties. I've got a red potato and a Kennebec potato, and then something that is, and I forget the name of it, but it is along the lines of a Gold Rush potato. So we'll see how those go. Her Healthy Home, welcome. Thank you for coming by. Hey, now that I've got a bunch of you in here, there is a serious note. just as I was preparing to go live here, I noticed that Frank and Tina have put up a prayer request. Their granddaughter, Sienna, has a stomach bacteria, or, a stomach ache, but it's worse than that. She's throwing up and so forth. So if you could just take a second here and just say a word of prayer that Sienna gets through this stomach virus, and I guess really we should pray for Frank and Tina as well, because that can be kind of rough when you've got a baby that's not feeling well and throwing up and all of that. So just say a word of prayer for them. Okay, so yeah, so I appreciate that. Any questions on anything gardening, just go ahead and put them in there. I'll try to keep an eye on them. Mother Goose is watching the live too a little bit here, so if she sees a question, she'll holler out to me as well. So we've got right now, I've got probably 150 tomatoes germinated. In fact, this morning I went down to the Germination Chamber. Every morning you open up the door and you're hoping to see something that's sprouted. And today we had, I mentioned the gypsy peppers, and we got pretty much a full tray of gypsy peppers. All of them had germinated. Now, last night I had gone down and a few of them had germinated, but I thought, well, there's no reason to take them out of the warm germination room and put them under the lights, because the lights are off for the next 8 hours. So this morning I went down, I pulled them out, put them underneath the light. Man, those cotyledons opened up and they're looking nice. And then tonight, when I got home from work, I went down to do some watering and to check some things, and I looked at the germination chamber. Gail, it's serendipitous that you should say that or ask that. So I pulled the tray out, and I've got Abraham Lincoln tomatoes. I think I've got pretty much a full tray of those germinated. So the germination chamber is working great. So Gail, in the past, we've always planted strawberries with just planting the roots, getting bare roots. And sort of the trick to that, and I don't know if there's a crown on the strawberry plant. So what that really is where the roots meet that stem, that fluvial stem, the first part of the meristem. That's called a crown. And that juncture where those roots start to break off on strawberries has to be above ground. If you bury that, they'll die. Now you can put mulch over it, not heavy mulch, but if you put some straw or something like that, that's fine. Strawberries need a lot of organic material to grow in. They need quite a bit of nitrogen, but nitrogen will prevent them from, you'll get a lot of strawberry leaves, but you're not going to get a lot of strawberry berries. Now, let me give you a public disclaimer here. We're struggling with our strawberries. So for me to give advice, I need to qualify that we don't really have that dialed in. We'll see this year. That's one thing about gardening. You don't just sort of like reset in the middle of the week, and by the end of the week, okay, we did well. When you reset, you're resetting for an entire year, But I planted strawberries this year by seed. Mama Goose bought some strawberry seeds, and she planted them in one of her planters. And I thought, well, I'm going to plant a few of them and put them in the germination chamber and see what happens. Well, I have one strawberry that's germinated, and I'm pretty excited about that. I had a neighbor, he moved to Colorado, but if you ever watch the video where we're watering the newly planted seedlings and you see that big green water tank, I got that water tank from him when he moved to Colorado. I think I paid $10 for it, or maybe he gave it to me. I know I bought a couple of things from him and he gave me some other stuff. So, anyway, he had a beautiful strawberries, and he said he didn't do much with it. But Jan planted strawberries last weekend. Yeah, Hickory Farm, I didn't even really know you could grow. I mean, I knew that they grew from seed. I knew you could do it. But there are some things that, you know, when you try to grow them from seed, it's so time-consuming and difficult that it's not worth it. And strawberries might fall into that category. So I'll give you an example of how the germination chamber works. So the strawberries, they've been in that germination chamber for about, well, let me think here, about 18 days. So if you look at when I started my germination, when I did that video, they went in the next day and they've just now germinated. So that's in 80-degree, damp, moist weather. I won't say perfect conditions, but sort of an attempt at perfect conditions. And it took them 14, 15 days, something like that, maybe a little bit more, to germinate. I've read where strawberries from seed can take up to a month and a half to germinate. So they're kind of tricky from what I understand. Steve asks, did you get the plastic on the high tunnel? No, not yet.
90-mile-an-hour winds yesterday.
Steve, I know you probably got the same winds we got, but I think we get them. I think something happens when the wind comes to us, and it just speeds up or something. Yesterday, the wind was so bad I couldn't even work outside. The day before that, I did do a lot of work on the greenhouse or on the high tunnel. But no, I haven't gotten the plastic on it yet. I'm going to go out to Itasca. That's a town that's south of me, probably an hour. I'm going to go to Itasca and buy the plastic. I'm going to be careful how I say this. I'm noticing a lot of people building high tunnels and greenhouses, and when I watch a video, I don't really want to put down in the comment section, you did that wrong. But there's one thing that I've seen happen, and I'm not going to say who, I don't even remember who, but I've noticed a couple videos, and some of them were from people that I care about, for sure. You cannot use plastic from like construction plastic or painter's tarps plastic. You can't use that for a greenhouse. And the reason is it's not UV stabilized. And after 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to start to discolor. And then, within a season, that's just going to rip apart. So Will It Grow is mentioning you've got to use a 6 mil, but it also has to be UV stabilized. It actually has to be made to take the outside UV rays of the sun. And so you need to use the 6 mil UV stabilized plastic. This is so important. There's actually a label on the plastic, and I don't remember It's been a while since we put plastic on a hoop house. You have to have that label either has to face in or out. I don't remember which, because the UV stabilization is on one side of that plastic, or the treatment has been on that outer mill of the plastic. So be very careful. I mean, I hate to see you spend, even that construction plastic isn't cheap. So you spend 50 or $60 on a 20 by 60 piece of plastic or something. Yeah, you'd have to pay triple that for the 6 mil UV stabilized, but it's, we'll do what you want to do. But yeah, and Gail, I did see yours. Yours is a commercial UV stabilized greenhouse cover. So it's just something, I don't want to say somebody's doing something wrong, because maybe that's just my opinion. But in this case, I've already done that. And you'll see in a couple of weeks here, you'll see me bring the Emerald City out. If you watch some of the old videos, you'll see the Emerald City. So I'll give you a little history on that. 5 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, I bought my high tunnel and I set it up and I covered it with plastic. And about 4 days later, the wind came and destroyed it entirely. So I had a lot of plants that were in the basement that needed to get into the hoop house. So I built something. I built a couple of cold frames, just wooden structures that I had windows laying on the top of. In fact, if you go to Micro Farmer, but it's Muddy Boots Gardener. If you go to Muddy Boots Gardener's channel, he laid some windows on top of a raised bed to heat up the ground, and that's an excellent idea. But I made a coal frame. First I made a small one, then I made a really big one. It was big enough to hold about 20 flats. And I made two major mistakes when making that. I used windows and I laid the windows in, but where the windows butted up against each other, the water leaked. And so that created a situation where I was overwatering some cells and not watering all the cells of the plants. So to fix that, I would have needed to put some silicone or something like that on. The other problem was, and this is, falls under the category of I should have known better. I used low E glass. The windows that I put in had low E glass, and low E stands for low emittance. And what it does is it cuts out almost all of the red light, which is what fades your furniture and creates quite a bit of the heat in the house is through the red light. It did let blue light through. So blue light is really what you need to grow your seedlings and to grow the green. But your plants, once they get to a certain stage, need a little bit of that red light as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of information on YouTube. You just have to look at the right places. You want to build a greenhouse, go for it. Be very careful using PVC and greenhouse plastic. You have to paint the PVC. Hello, Jackos. You have to paint the PVC because the PVC will have a reaction with the plastic. If you use CPVC, that's fine, but it's significantly more expensive. So that kind of puts me at the end of that portion of the video. Now I want to, at the opening of this video, I told you that I have a strategy for winning Shedwars. And Yeah, I shouldn't share this, but I don't know which team I'm going to be on yet. After tomorrow or Saturday, I will know which team I'm on, or I guess if I'm on a team, I'm assuming. But I will know. And no, John, I'm not going to say anything bad. And then I won't want to share it with everybody. So today I'm going to share with you my strategy for winning Shedwars. It's in this little box. You see what those are? Universal metal lids. These are lids for canning jars. And I bought a bunch of them, or I should say Mother Goose and I bought a bunch of them after canning season was over last year. And so I'm going to predict that it's not, and I'm going to say something contrary to what I just said, but I'm going to say something, I'm going to predict that it's not going to be the big growers like me and some of the other big growers who've got big gardens. They're not the ones that are going to win this thing. Because one of the rules is you can only count what you're going to eat or what you're going to store to eat later. And so Recyclable Homestead, hello. So one of the things that I have in my plan is to store as much food as I can, because that's what's going to win this thing. You can grow enough food to feed your family every day while the summer's on and the garden is growing, just eating right out of your garden. But if you want to win Shedwars, you're going to have to do better than that. You're going to have to step up your game. And I believe that one of the things you're going to have to do is can, or at least store. So the other thing I bought, and I haven't used them. I meant to use them last year. I never got around to it. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on that. These are fermenting lids. And you see the springs there have little platforms on the bottom, and then the lids, you put that on a ball jar and you drop the spring in. You fill the ball jar up with sauerkraut and salt. Find a recipe. And you put the spring in, and then you tighten that down, and you can ferment right in that ball jar. So, and again, go to Voon Child's page and see how she's storing food, and some of the other pages where people are storing food. Forgive me, I can't remember who all did it, but we're going to be doing a lot of canning. And that leads me to another and this was not a Shedwars individual. This was somebody who really, I think, violated one of the core, what I think should be a core YouTube law. Let's say that. They suggested you reuse your old lids. They suggested you could just clean them in a little bleach and a little boiling water and reuse them. Well, the gasket on that lid is only meant to be used once. And once it's been compressed once, it's not going to compress right again. And so it won't make a seal. Now, it might make the seal, but it won't hold the seal as well. So it'll leak out, and your food will end up spoiling. And depending upon what it is, it may tell you it's spoiled, or it may not tell you it's spoiled. So Country Homestead Preacher is asking, Johnny, do you believe a freeze dryer is a justifiable cost? Is that what we've got? No, we don't have a freeze dryer.
No,
we've got a dehydrator.
I dehydrated, and then I also
I don't know.
Froze stuff.
Yeah.
Flash froze stuff.
What Sandy does, I don't know anything really about the freeze dryers, but what Sandy will do with peppers, that's Mother Goose for those of you who don't know. What Sandy will do with peppers is she'll slice them up and put them on trays, put those trays in the freezer. When they're frozen, she'll then put them into vacuum bags. She'll vacuum them down. And the peppers keep really well that way. So I would think a freeze dryer would be, it sounds to me like that's something that's going to take the moisture out as it freezes it. And that's why you want to put those on pans so that the ice crystallizes and it doesn't get into the bag. But Lori is saying depends on how much you process and how many people you're feeding. So that's your answer, Country Homestead Preacher. The Shedwars team has come together once again to answer the difficult questions of life. So, yeah, one of the things as you're perusing YouTube, and I've been doing a lot of it lately. Work has slowed down now because it's not as cold. And so I've been home a little bit more. And I've been watching some YouTube sites. And it seems to me that anything that starts with garden hack, just ignore it. And that includes the Epsom salt, that includes the hydrogen peroxide, that includes the eggshells, includes the coffee grounds. Some of that stuff works, but you have to put it in a mulch pile. There's one YouTube video, I didn't watch it, but the thumbnail is a banana, and they've got something growing out of the banana. And they're saying it's got all the potassium it needs. Well, the problem is that bananas have potassium in them, but the potassium isn't available to the plants. It's not a plant available potassium. It needs to go through the gullet of a mycorrhizal fungi and before it can be usable. And so it has to be decomposed. It has to be put in that mulch pile. And banana peels underneath your plants, like throwing the banana peels down and then planting stuff on top of them, you're probably just going to cause bacteria to form within the banana peels and then just eat the roots. So Jan, what does a freeze dryer cost? What kind of costs are we talking about? Of course, anybody could answer that question. I don't know. I don't even think maybe I'm just not thinking. That's par. But getting back, I think that the key and the about $2,000. Well, that's probably not practical for most of us then. So Gail Southern Living, I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that a fellow Shed Warrior has said great things about banana water, but I will answer it in this way. What I just said about potassium being available is true whether the potassium has been soaked in water or not. Potassium has to, the process of turning the potassium in the banana into potassium that the plant can consume is similar to the process that leaves need to go through to become plant available. Or ammonia, for example. Years ago, people said, well, pour ammonia on your plants or urinate on your plants, and it'll cause your plants to grow. And there is some truth to that. But you'll probably get too much of it and in an unusable form. But if you put that in your mulch pile and let it mulch for a month or a year, Now, ammonia would probably leach out before it would be usable. But all of these hacks, really, you need to stop and look at them and think about it. And here's a good way to think about it. Let's take the Epsom salt hack as an example. It has the word salt in it. Epsom salt. And usually when you see the name in there, that means it's one of the big ingredients. The reason why Epsom salt is good for like bathing in is because the salts are abrasive and they help defoliate the skin, or whatever that term is. But salt will kill your plants. In fact, the number one problem in greenhouses and hoop houses is a buildup of salt in the soil because there's no rain to wash the salts away. And if you're using commercial fertilizers, all commercial fertilizers contain an amount of salt, not as much as Epsom salt per volume, but they all contain salts. In fact, that's where we get the term. That's where you're all. Let me just leave it at that. I'm not going to get scientific with you because I'm not catching the word. But yeah. So Steve is saying that Epsom is magnesium sulfate. That's exactly what it is. You've got, but it's in a salt base. So Swafford Homestead is saying we can't find any lids here. I was up at what's the name of that store? Not Tractor Supply, but Fleet and Farm. I was up at Fleet Farm. That's a Wisconsin Tractor Supply, but it's much bigger. And they had no lids either, and that's where we've gotten lids in the past. Walmart has no lids by us. So well, Lori, I know by us, when you buy the jars, you get a ring and a lid with it, and jars are not a problem here. I mean, they don't have tons of them on the shelf, so if somebody starts buying a lot, they're going to be gone. But the pint and the quart jars are full. What are you using half-gallon mason jars for, Gail? Hello, F&P Farms. So, but you know, there's simple ways to store certain things. And I stored those beets last year. I took a Rite container and I put the beets in with some damp saw chips or wood chips, and I kept that down in my basement, which is more or less a cellar. It's about, throughout the winter, it was about 55 degrees. And I'm going to do a video coming up here pretty soon where I open up that Rubbermaid container and see if the beets made it through. I want to wait until mid-April. The top container, I've eaten beets out of there recently, so I know that they're staying. So, you know, Jan, one of the things I don't like about dehydrating is a good way to store things. I like a lot of dehydrated fruit. If anybody down south there, if you've got a fig tree and you want to send me up some figs, I'd be glad to taste test them for you live. I love figs, but I can't get them here.
I have 4 jars up there.
Oh, Mama Goose says she's got 4 jars of figs. Well, after tonight, she will have 3 or maybe 3.5. Depends on how big the jars are. We tried dehydrate. What did we like to dehydrate? Dehydrated beets were good. We made little beet chips. They were good. We dehydrated the jalapeno peppers. We didn't use a dehydrator. We just did it with a fan and sunshine. And what else do we dehydrate? Onions. In fact, if you want to make onion powder, Simply Jan just said she planted 6 figs. They're still babies. Well, when you get some figs, you remember me. We can't grow them here. I'm surprised you can grow them there, although you're probably 600 miles south of me, I would think. You're quite a bit west as well. I went to school in Canton, Missouri. I went to college in Canton, Missouri, which is probably about 5 hours from you, 4 or 5. So Steve says that there is a Chicago fig that's supposed to handle our zone 5. You know, I kind of think that I saw a video. It wasn't recently, so it was a while ago. I saw a video on that. So who is excited about the draft tomorrow, and who's not going to sleep tonight?
You.
Yeah, I probably won't sleep much tonight. I'll probably spend the night sitting up watching old Shedwars YouTube videos, and it's a good thing, John. It's a good thing I don't have your phone number. I'd be calling you up right now, and we'd be negotiating. Okay. Oh, so Swafford, you're in Indiana, so you're not really that far from us. You'll have to let me know how those go. Gail says she's excited. Lori says she's excited. Steve's got a smile on his face, not sure why. Got to worry about him a little bit. Oh, Swafford's in Tennessee. So I've got you mixed up with somebody else then. Yeah, Jacko says I've got to stop up late again tomorrow for the draft. I got extra cider for the excitement. 1 a.m. my time. Goodness. Yeah, we're I don't know. I think I'll make some popcorn and
Might postpone our anniversary.
well, yeah, tomorrow is my anniversary, Sandy and my anniversary, and so we're going out Saturday, and
Maybe.
she said, well, you want to go around 6? I said, well, why don't we go early? Why don't we go around, 3? So I'm not sure I'm going to get away with that, but we'll see how things go. Yeah, Swafford, we can try that. We try to grow them up here.
Not having Willet Girl's phone.
Oh, Steve says the smiley was for not having Willet Girl's phone number. That's funny. The finger rules, Sheriff, all the way. Jacko, I can suspend you for that. Thank you, Simply Jan. Thank you, Voonchild. Oh, hey, I got something funny for you guys. I don't know how close you pay to your analytics. I watch my analytics fairly often. Every video, probably 20, 30 times during the first 4 days. And according to YouTube, and YouTube doesn't lie, according to YouTube, 100% of my viewers are male. So, Voon, I know you're not watching my videos. And Jan, I know, and Gail, I know you're not watching my videos because YouTube said 100% of my viewers are men. And 100 or something like 90% of them are between 40, whatever it is, 48 and 64 or something like that.
Such YouTube lies.
So, Jan, how dare you say YouTube lies? You can't say that on my channel. We could get demonetized. Primal Cajun, welcome. Glad you're here. I didn't see you before if you were in. Our Cabin in the Woods, good evening. Welcome to the live. We're just starting to wrap up here, I guess. Yael says she's half man, half woman. I guess you can be that now. I'm half man, half spoon. So, you whatever. You can be whatever you want. So anybody got any team that they're hoping they're going to be on? Or does anybody have any predictions for who's going to be on what team? Oh, Gail, now I got it. I understand. It's all good. Spitfire Red, good evening. Welcome to the live chat. We're done with the organized part of this, and now we're just, while we're here at the end of this, there might be some utility in me saying that a couple of things haven't worked exactly the way I expected them to. My vacuum seeder works pretty well on any pelleted seeds it works very well on. And I tried it with some turnip seeds, some purple top turnip seeds, just as a test run to see if the hole was too small or too big, And it works fairly well with that. But it really doesn't work all that well with pepper seeds or tomato seeds. Now, you can make it work by pushing the seeds around on the tray, and it actually maybe works a little bit better than planting with a tweezer. But if you're going to make one, I think it'll work really well for pelleted seeds and pelleted onion seeds. It wouldn't work for non-pelleted onion seeds. Primal Cajun says, you just got here. I want to be on Woodcutter's team so I can play with John. He's a hoot, and I'm glad he has that personality. Yeah, I think that, you know what, even if you're on John's team, you can give him a lot of trash talk. But, when we do that, I think every once in a while it's good to acknowledge, and I'm not trying to be sappy, but if you watched Homestead Aquarius's kind of the history of Shedwars, it's kind of a neat review of what happened. Kind of a unique explanation of how everything came to be. And, I don't think that Homestead Aquarius and the Arkansas Woodcutter, I don't think they had any idea what they were unleashing on the world. And it's just amazing the amount of effort and the amount of work that all three of them have put in to make this thing as much fun as it
Read what
was
Robert wrote.
and what it could be. So I got to go back in the chat here for a second.
Homestead of Grass.
Yeah.
Was the 19th Shedwars.
You know, Homestead, I almost made that video, but I couldn't get past "'Twas the Night Before Shedwars." So I guess this will be my last live broadcast before I know who the enemy is. And so I will make it very clear to you that if you're on my team, if you're not on my team, you're on my team. And I think that's the same thing with John. I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's said it in the past. And the suspensions and all of that, they're a lot of fun. And I expect them to line my pockets with a lot of money as the self-appointed official legal representative of the people for Shedwars 2021. All right. Red Silo Homestead, welcome to the live. We're just finishing up here, but you're welcome to hang out afterwards.
Keep going.
Well, we can keep going for a little bit here. I've kind of run through my thoughts, but you know, the thing that I'm looking forward to most of all, I went down, today's Thursday, I went down on Tuesday and I got all the tractors started. And I've got to take the big tractor up and change the hydraulic fluid on it and probably change the oil again. But I got up on that tractor and I opened up the fuel and I took the gear shift into neutral and I turned the key onto the glow plug and I let it sit for about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. And for the first time since last fall, I turned that key and it started right up. It's a 1980 Ford 545 diesel industrial tractor. And it just started right up. I got on the Kubota and I expected that one to just start right up because it's relatively new, and it did. It started right up. No knocking, nothing. And then I got on to Mama Goose's four-wheeler, and so I pulled the cord, popped right up, started right up. So hopefully I can get back to the Farmall B, and it'll start up. But it hasn't started in about 8 years, so I don't give it too much hope. So we're going to start probably, well, I won't do it this week, and then I've got a week that is going to be just cram-packed. I won't maybe even be able to, it's going to be about a week there. I won't even be able to make a video. We'll see, but I don't think so. And then second week of April, we're going to be right out there going. Our cabin in the woods. How did that noise go again? That's what happens when you kick a horse in the butt too. But
All right, this goes out to John. So you have a choice. You can either look at me or you can look at John's chicken in the back.
I have a feeling John's not on the site because I think he would have popped up.
Otherwise, we're going to start pointing our finger at you.
Hey, something I learned this week about YouTube that I didn't know before. YouTube really cares about that thumbs up. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and hit the thumbs up. We've got 15 of them and there's 22 of you here. So somebody hasn't hit it. So Simply Jan says, Mother Goose, you're purtier. You just offended my chicken.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't think he cares. Thank you, Spitfire Red.
Well, hopefully this week you guys will relax tomorrow and sleep.
Red Silo, she's talking about this chicken.
Yes, John's chicken. I think everybody's very excited about going into this next stage of Shedwars 21. John and Robert have brought
So does Mother Goose.
So many people
Lori.
together that it's neat to have become friends with everybody here. And it's really nice to share what everybody's doing and what everybody's learning and to get tips from everybody. And we're looking forward to this year and everything it's going to bring for us.
Yeah, amen. You know, the first couple of years that we gardened, I'm going back to when I was in my other house and I had a little garden and I thought all I had to do was double dig and then plant some seeds, keep them watered, pull a weed or two, maybe three. And of course, I found myself 3 weeks later wading in weeds the size of trees. And but through a lot of the tips that I've picked up on YouTube, we had a pretty good year last year. We had a lot fewer weeds than we generally have. And I will say that one of the things that has helped me keep the weeds out of the garden is YouTube and you all, because I want you to see a good, clean garden. And so that's held me accountable to go out and keep the garden weeded. So somebody asked me, how long does it take to make a YouTube video? Well, one of my garden tour videos, it takes about, if it's a 30-minute video, it takes about 45 minutes to film it. It takes about 3.5 hours to edit it. And it takes about a week and a half to weed the garden so it's ready to be filmed. So with that, I am Jacko says, I'm saving money for the first time in 25 years because I'm coming over to see y'all's meet nice people at a time of low. Keep it up, folks. So, yeah, you know, things were pretty low last year. We need to keep this up. Simply Jan is saying that 6 o'clock Central, Morris Patch of Heaven is her guest for info on the first annual Missouri Homesteader Meetup right after the pre-Shedwars Draft Live. Very good. Thank you for posting that, Jan. And
Get some sleep in the next 2 days, guys. We got all summer to do this.
Well,
We got all summer.
for us, we've been doing a little bit. I've got quite a bit planted and quite a bit growing. But for us, it really starts May 5th. May 5th is when I'll get out the cedar and I'll start planting. Well, actually, April 15th, I'll start planting beets and I'll start planting kale and I'll start planting purple top turnips and Swiss chard. And this year we're going to do some, what do you guys call that stuff that you put fat back with? Collards. And it starts, and then it's every single day. If it's raining, there's still stuff that has to be done. And what's hard is if it rains for too many days in a row, the weeds start to get away from you. And so you've got to get back in there and get on top of them. I don't know how some of these gardeners who are gardening 2 acres by hand do it, but yep, Country Homestead Preacher, we're going out with you too. Thanks for coming by. Thank you all. Let's remember to keep Sierra in our prayers. Let's also remember to keep, correct me if I've got this wrong, I believe it's called the Needy Homestead. If you don't know about that, there's a lot of videos. Just watch some of the videos on the Needy Homestead, but have a Kleenex with you, and I mean that. Thank you for coming by. Y'all have a great week. I'm sure we'll all meet up. Most of us will meet up tomorrow at the draft, and we'll see how it all goes. Yeah. I'm Chicken Johnny.
And
In
Mama
Mitzer
Goose.
Shem, I'll see you again. Eat your vegetables.
Night all.
Good night. See you next week.